Every person who has made it big in this life has credited their success to an unshakable discipline, extreme pain tolerance, and perseverance. The internet is full of routines. There are people who are suggesting waking up at 5 am. There are people who are suggesting going for a run. There are people suggesting going for a gym and have a very fixed routine around the entire process. But the thing is that a specific routine does not matter. The point is to do things that make you uncomfortable physically or mentally. It's not about those 5 am runs, it's not about those cold showers. As long as you're making your brain physically or mentally uncomfortable, you're doing just what is required to achieve. And that is enough. That is more than enough. But a lot of people get this wrong. They look at those 5 am runs and they look at those cold showers and think that these are the things that we need to do in order to be successful, in order to be like the Titans. But no. And this is no motivational bullshit. Action is my philosophy. I don't believe in philosophy without action. So I'll not tell you something that, it's just vague thoughts, something. I'll tell you things that are grounded in action. And this is what it is. Stay with me. What I'm talking about is neurological training. Making your brain physically or mentally uncomfortable is a way of restructuring your brain's structure. And that's a very big concept we need to grasp here. It's not about habits, it's not about making a character, no. This is physical, medical brain restructuring that I'm talking about. Now the brain has a very specific region which grows big whenever you force your brain to do something uncomfortable. Whenever you maybe get up early, or go for a run, or go to the gym, or you do anything that makes your brain even slightly uncomfortable, you touch upon that region of the brain. And the name of that region is the Anterior Midcingulate Cortex. This region, this Anterior Midcingulate Cortex, is responsible for our willpower, our endurance, our ability to face challenges, and most important, our discipline. Now, studies have shown that the aMCC shows hypertrophy, which means that if you train it, if you force action upon it, it will increase in size. The simple meaning being, if you practice certain actions which make your brain physically or mentally uncomfortable, you are in a way forcing the aMCC to grow in size. And the bigger your aMCC is, the more persistent you are, the more disciplined you are, the more gritty you are, and you have a greater pain tolerance. And I'm not talking about the pain that you get when somebody pricks a needle. No, I'm talking about emotional turmoil. I'm talking about mental stress. Challenges in life will just feel like a snap if your aMCC is developed enough to handle them. But the thing is that in a lot of people, this aMCC is very underdeveloped. And that's why they try to avoid these hard things and they cannot wake up early. They don't like waking up early. It's not like they can't, it's just that they won't. Because it is just inherently making their lives more difficult, and nobody wants that. Our brains are mostly optimized for dopamine. Humans inherently chase dopamine. We like to seek pleasure. We want to become happy, and all of our goals, all of the life that we live, it's all centered around that one emotion of happiness. We want to derive pleasure out of everything. But the aMCC is very counterintuitive in that it acts opposite to what the brain does. Now, what makes this interesting is that the aMCC is linked to survival. People who live long, people who have a very good longevity, they have trained their brains, their aMCCs in particular, to be very active and pronounced. You'll find their aMCCs very pronounced and very well developed. Because see, the thing is, aging is hard. As you grow old, life becomes harder and harder. Okay, you were a child, everything was taken care of by your parents or maybe by your guardians or whoever. But when you grow beyond a certain age, you need to get shit done by your own self. You see your loved ones die, you see problems all around you, you see yourself aging, and that is a lot of stress, and that is a very difficult position to get out of. That is a very difficult phase, that's a very challenging phase that the brain and the body has to go through. But if your aMCC is developed, your brain becomes very resilient to these processes of aging and death and sorrow and challenges. And this aMCC has to be kept engaged in a continuous process. We cannot just do one thing for it once in our lives and then expect it to be like that forever. No, it's like any other part of the body. If you don't train it, it'll just stagnate and it'll just undergo atrophy. Atrophy is the reduction of its size and functionality. So the rule is you have to keep it engaged, and the better you do it, the better your chances of going through aging and the process of growing old. Now that was the neuroscience behind this. Going forward, I would like to draw your attention to a very important and a very interesting comparison. You know, Shani in astrology, it is the significator of karma, judgment, discipline, aging, longevity. And if you want to see Shani's working in real time, observe your aMCC, because your anterior midcingulate cortex is the physical manifestation of Saturn in your own human body. Just like Shani monitors your willpower, resilience, and discipline, the aMCC does the same job, but on a more micro level. In astrology, Shani is called the Karm Phal Data, which means the giver of rewards. The Shani's core job is to analyze, to judge whether the efforts that you are putting in and the rewards you are getting are in proportion. Your efforts should match your rewards, and your awards should always match your efforts. This is what Shani does in astrology. The aMCC does a very similar job, but on a very micro level inside our human body. See, the aMCC is connected to the mesolimbic and the mesocortical system, including the ventral tegmental area and the striatum. So what it does is it regulates dopamine into the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And no, not the dopamine produced by low effort, low engagement activities like maybe doom scrolling or playing video games, but high engaging, high effort activities which require an active engagement of the brain, like speaking or writing or maybe gymming or some other activity. So essentially what the aMCC does is it judges whether the action, whether the effort you are doing is proportional to the reward you're getting or not. If that is the case, then it easily lets all the dopamine produced by that activity flow into the prefrontal cortex and make you feel happy or rewarded. So here, at the micro level, dopamine is the award that you're getting for your efforts. And if the aMCC decides that you deserve the dopamine, it just lets go. But if it doesn't, then it withholds it. Now this is also a very interesting similarity between Shani and the aMCC, is that aMCC is like a band-like structure. It goes around like a ring, and that's very similar to Saturn because Saturn also has rings, but never mind. Now moving on with the similarities, there is a condition called akinetic mutism. So it's a condition in which the patient can speak and walk, but he simply doesn't because he doesn't feel like it. He is in a state of zen, and even though he can, he is not disabled otherwise, but he still doesn't because he lacks that spark required to produce action, because the aMCC of his brain is damaged or compromised in some way. Now what is Sadesati? Isn't Sadesati the same thing? A lot of people that I've spoken to during their Sadesati periods, they've experienced something like being handicapped, but not physically or materially, but in a way that feels very restrictive. They feel bound by some invisible chains, like they want to act but they can't act. It's like something is holding them back. That's what Sadesati does. So another very interesting similarity between Shani and the aMCC is that the aMCC is a judge. So whenever there is some action, whenever there is a decision making that is going on in the brain, what the aMCC does is that it evaluates both options. One option is the easier way out. It prioritizes comfort and familiarity. The other option is the hard way out. It includes struggle. It includes some effort. And the aMCC judges between these two. If it's a well-developed aMCC, it will choose the harder way. But if it's an underdeveloped aMCC, it will choose the easier way. There is no control over the outcomes of that. Now, hear me out very carefully. In the sequence of the Navagraha, or I would say in the Navagraha Council, Saturn comes after Jupiter but before Rahu and Ketu. Meaning that Saturn comes at the exact center of the shadow planets and the material planets. Saturn is also a planet of judgment. Saturn is the best judge in the solar system. It is known for being the Nyayadhish. And that's not the point of what I'm about to say. Saturn also judges between the easy way out and the hard way out. Or at least, Saturn makes us choose between the easy way out and the hard way out. Now, what is the easy way out usually? The easy way out is the way that is preferred by Rahu and Ketu. Now, those are shadowy planets. They run on illusion and chaos. They give you an illusion of happiness. So, when you choose the easy way out, you are in an illusion that you are happy and you are okay with this decision. But in the long term, when that illusion wears off, you realize that this was a bad decision. The hard way out is ruled more by the physical planets, the planets that we can actually see and experience: the Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Mercury, Mars. They are real. They represent the reality of life. And often they bring more struggle than the illusion of happiness, but the happiness that we get after that struggle is more real, grounded, and long term. So Saturn's job, sitting right at the middle of the shadowy planets, Rahu, Ketu, to its right, and the material, real planets like Jupiter, Venus, Mars, to its left, is to create a balance and a sense of judgment between whether a person chooses the easy way out, the illusory way out, or the real way out. Just like the aMCC. Now you'd say that these are all okay, philosophical and metaphorical similarities between them. Fine. But what I'm about to tell you next will actually blow your mind. You know why? Because this is rooted in biology. This is rooted in neuroscience. So there is a concept of myelination in the brain. Myelination is the development of myelin, a fat sheath around the neuron, which just makes it a better conducting neuron, and it ensures the neuron functions well and there's no leakage of signal. So basically it optimizes the functioning of the neuron. Now the thing is that myelination happens all across the brain. Okay, we know that. But you know which area of the brain takes the longest to myelinate? If you guess that, you're correct. It's the aMCC, the Anterior Midcingulate Cortex. That area of the brain takes the longest to myelinate. And you know how much time it takes? It takes approximately 30 years to fully develop. So speaking in layman terms, myelination of the aMCC takes about 30 years, or the full development of the region of the brain that is responsible for your discipline, for your willpower, takes 30 years. Now you'll be very surprised to know that in astrology, the activation age of Shani is also 30 years. It is said that if Shani has to give you something, it will always give you after the age of 30. Okay, small things, few here and there before the age of 30, but if Shani has to give you something major, it will only do so after it activates in your chart, and that happens only after the age of 30, irrespective of your chart. Provided that it does have something to give you, Shani shows its benefits only after the age of 30. I have people in my family who are a living example of this, and there are countless people I know who can testify for this. But this is very true, that Saturn, just like the aMCC, takes a full 30 years to mature. Everything I said in this video has been researched thoroughly. There is nothing that I am saying on hearsay. These are all medical facts. Although this is not medical advice, but you can go and look them up and fact check this. Coming back to the point, what is the solution? What is the solution to keep that aMCC alive and kicking forever? Now see, since that part of the brain is very Saturn dominated, the solution to keep it active and working is also Saturn dominated. Now see, since that region of the brain is very Saturn dominated, the solution to keep it active and working is also Saturn dominated. What is it? The solution is to gradually subject your aMCC to difficult activities. Every day, spend 30 minutes of your day doing something your brain will otherwise not do, like maybe learning a language or taking a cold shower or anything you like. 30 minutes of your day must be spent on doing something hard. And then you don't pick the hardest activity on day one. No, that's not how Saturn operates. Saturn delivers slowly. Saturn is very slow. So if you have to activate and keep your aMCC working, you have to give it that hypertrophy gradually. So every day you have to do something small that is hard for you, and you can see that over the time, as the time passes, that same hard activity becomes very easy for you. And that is the whole point of this exercise. You start with something moderately difficult, and then you keep on increasing that difficulty gradually. You see, gradual is the underline here. Gradual is the point of this entire exercise. Slowly, steadily. You don't pick the hardest activity on day one. Because Saturn is also responsible for consistency. Saturn is the most consistent planet in the solar system. Now Saturn and Sun, again there's an argument there, but okay, they're father and son, right? So they'll share some capabilities. Come on. Saturn is consistency. Doing something hard every day builds that consistency. Now what will happen is, if your aMCC is big enough, is pronounced enough, every challenge of life will feel just like meh. You will just become very agnostic towards all the shit that life throws at you. And you'll be like, okay, this is just another challenge, I'll get over this. That's actually a very verified attitude of people who come out of the Sadasati, because that is what Saturn teaches them. Now this solution is very Saturn oriented, because in this solution you deliberately give yourself certain hardships that you have to face on every day and overcome them. So eventually, when after a certain period of time, you get very used to those hardships and your brain becomes very numb to those hardships, and you are able to face them very easily whenever they come back or you experience them in later life. Now that's very similar to Saturn's modus operandi again, because isn't that what Saturn also does? During its Sadasati or maybe Dasha or someplace, Saturn's core operation is this only. It keeps on giving you hardships throughout your life on a macro level. The solution that I told you, that is for a micro level. Waking up at 5 a.m, taking a cold shower maybe, or doing something hard. Saturn does that on a micro level. Saturn takes away your job. Here you go, you have a hardship, go face it. This is the whole point of Saturn training your aMCC from outside. And the hack of this video and of this entire exercise is to train it from inside. So now you know how Saturn and the aMCC are very, very, very similar to each other. This similarity is uncanny. My mind is blown, and anybody who gets into this deep, I am sure their mind will be blown into smithereens. This solution is Saturn oriented. The region of the brain is Saturn oriented. It is literally Saturn sitting inside of our body, and that is maybe how Saturn operates with the mind. You never know. See, we don't have the scientific proof of astrology yet, but we only see the effects of it happening in real life. Maybe there is something that the aMCC does that resonates with Saturn in some way, and that is why this is a direct manifestation of Saturn in the body. I mean, the possibility is always there, because as of now, all of science and all of mankind has explored only 20% of the entire brain. We know pieces of it, We know the structure, we know the foundation and the functioning, but we don't know a lot of it. We are still unaware of the functioning, the complete functioning of the human brain. In Jyotish Shastra, we say, Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande, meaning that as the universe is outside, so it is within. And ladies and gentlemen, I just proved it to you. If you like this concept, like and subscribe. My name is Oman, and I'll see you on the next one.